Dear thought leaders, good to see you today. Today we are going to talk about how we can stop the spin and help our clients reset their navigation system. So here's what I'm seeing a lot, and unfortunately I think all the messages that we see on social media aren't necessarily helping. So I'm seeing people say, I want to work from home. I don't know if you're seeing that, but I don't feel like I need to write an article. Nobody's hiring you to work from home. People are hiring for a job, right? They're hiring you to do something that will add value to their business. And yes, it may be done from home. They're trying to figure out that balance between work and life that doesn't exist. In fact, I wish we could get rid of that word because it is a constantly shifting thing for all of us. No matter what you do for work, or even if you're a stay at home parent, there's always a shifting between things that need to be done and people that need to be paid attention to, your own self care and me time. There's always going to be a give and take between those things. And the idea that we're going to find a balance is confusing at best and maybe hurtful at times because we don't have that. None of us do, and yet we read about how we should. The latest trend that I'm seeing on all of the social media is that we should all just have this dream life where we don't have to work and we just get to do what we want to do all the time. When you win the lottery, you go ahead and share it this way. And I would love to participate in that life. Although really that's not true, right? I love what I do. I love being here. And I find that most people want to have a purpose beyond traveling even. I mean, I love that, but after a while, I've done that before I had kids, where we traveled to the point where I really didn't have that purpose anymore. So today we're going to talk a little bit about how do we help people put all of these pieces back together now that COVID and changing workplaces and changing expectations about life have perhaps put us in a little bit of a tailspin. Let's look at these factors and then love your thoughts. If you're joining me today, please tell me where you're joining me from. And if you're seeing some of this with your clients, I'd love to hear that as well. Hello, welcome from Tampa. It's good to see you. Thank you for joining me. And I'd love to hear if you're seeing some of this from your clients, that they're just struggling with the role that life is playing and how they fit work into that and what they want life to look like right now and moving forward. And we know that this is going to be a constant shift because things will continue to change. Kids are going to go back to school more, consistently now. People are wanting us to go back in offices. The world is changing always faster than ever, always. The only constant is change, right? And we've got to figure out how to put those pieces together with people so that they feel like they can move forward successfully and know what they want to get out of life. More people looking at fully remote or hybrid. Yeah. And why? What do they hope that will bring to them? And maybe I'll pull up a little checklist that I just developed and how we might help people think through that as we go through today. Yeah, Detroit, thank you for joining us. Okay, so I do want to show you just a few things. The first one is just a little model that we use to help people understand who they are. And the first thing that I'll say is that this is from our Certified Personal Branding Strategist class. It's brand new. I showed you last week the one that William Arruda is using for Career Blast, and Career Blast kind of created some of the foundation pieces here, and then Career Thought Leaders took over this program 5 years ago, 4 years ago, and we've really morphed it into what I'm showing you today, which is a little bit of our new model in how we are looking at this. So here's something that's not going to be new to you, perhaps, but I want to think about how we address these concepts with people in a little bit different way. So the idea behind this is that all of us have our own internal light. We have our own internal shade, however you might want to think of this, right? We each have our own unique shade of light, and it's put together, at least in the workplace and somewhat even outside of the workplace, by these elements. So our interests, What do we like to talk about? What do we like to do? The problem, one of the things I'm seeing right now in the workplace is that people are trying to get all of this from work. Maybe because our volunteer activities have been taken away a little bit because of COVID, right? There's not as many opportunities to go out and meet our interests in other ways. Or perhaps we didn't have the time to invest in those, we let them go. And so now we're kind of searching for work to meet all of this. We can simply help our clients figure out how do they want to engage in the topics that they're interested in outside of work. Remember when you used to volunteer, you used to play in the orchestra, you used to go do these things. Now you can do those again. And that might take off some of the pressure for work to be this all loving, all consuming place of our life, which really I don't believe it was ever meant to be. Then we've got our strengths. These are the things that we love to do. They're the things that we lose track of time when we're doing them. They're the pieces that fill our cups of our work, of even our interactions with others outside of work. When we get to operate from this place, it feels good. And so, how do people find those strengths again? How do they reconnect to them? And how do they communicate them in work so that they can do more work from their strengths? Because if they don't know this, if they can't articulate it, they won't be able to get more of it in their new work just because they get a new job. And in fact, it may be harder for them to get more of this out of their job when they're working hybrid or remote, because they're going to have to be very clear and have conscious conversations so that people understand that these are their strengths. Nobody's going to necessarily happen to see it, or get you won't get as many opportunities perhaps without consciously thinking, how am I going to communicate this and make sure people see this about me? Then, of course, we have this foundational values piece. And this is, what do we need out of work? This isn't values in terms of morals or, political parties or religion. This is, what do we need out of work? What do we value in work? What do we value about ourselves as an employee? What do we value about a workplace? And we're going to look at a little model for this here in a minute. But this is something that is shifting. It's always changing. Before the pandemic, people may not have valued a flexible schedule as much. Now they know they can have it, and boy, they really want it. Sometimes we value something that we don't have, and we have realized that it's really important. Oftentimes, we recognize our values when they're crossed, when someone really makes us angry, and we recognize our values in other people sometimes, when, especially if they do something we don't like. Well, hey, that's a clue that we really do value that, whatever that might be. Differentiators. So what makes us different than our peers, and how is that viewed as value by the target audience? So this brings in that target audience piece to really be able to understand our differentiators. And then purpose. And Susan Critton, she and I were talking about this. Susan Critton's the instructor for our personal branding class. And she and I were chatting about this. And we see purpose as a verb. Purpose is not something you go out and find. To me, purpose is something that you show up with every day because you recognize how what you're doing today will add value to what you want to do in the future. And that connection can only be made if you know your goals. Now, if you're feeling rudderless and stuck today, it may be less about the work you're doing today and more about the fact that you don't know what you want to do in the future. Because if you are doing anything, almost anything you could be doing today, if you know what you want to do tomorrow, we can connect the dots. So if you are working in a job that's completely unrelated, you might still have the opportunity to meet people, have the opportunity to grow a skill, have the opportunity to make money that you could save away to do that thing you want to do next. We can draw those connections between what you're doing today and what you want to do in the future if you have those clear goals. And that's purpose. Showing up every day purposefully, looking for, intentionally seeking out the opportunities to learn what you will need to learn today for tomorrow. And this often gets lost in our conversation about saying no, right? We tell people to say no to this, say no to that. The problem is, if someone doesn't have clear goals about what they want to do in the future, they may say no to something that could actually add value because they don't have a big enough vision to see the connection. So when I was first starting this business, I was working my little tail off. But the first year that I was in business for myself, I probably worked 12, 14 hours a day. Not recommended. But I wanted to be self-sustaining. I needed to be able to make my own way and not depend on other people. Raised by a single mom, just, that was one of the things from the very beginning. I was not going to need monetary support from other people. So I was working my little tail off. And people had started to say, Omer, you need to focus down, you need to niche, you need to decide what you're going to do. But I did have a vision. I saw where I wanted to go. I knew that I loved training, that I wanted to create programs. I wasn't quite sure yet who was going to buy them and how it was going to work, but I knew that that's where I wanted to go. And so I got an opportunity from an organization that I had developed a training that made sense, right? I developed a work ethic training for them. It made sense. It was along the same lines that I was doing. And they came to me and they said, Marie, would you want to develop this K through 12 curriculum for a country in the Middle East that I'd never even heard of? And I said yes, because I could see that it was in the line with that vision. Even though to other people it might have seemed like it was way out in left field, it was training, it was curriculum, and it was going to give me an opportunity to learn that in a much different way than I had learned it kind of by trial and error. So that project, I got to work with a superintendent from the school district, and he kind of taught me how to create curriculum as we went along. I was saying no to some things, but the things that I needed to say yes to were because I knew where I was going and I was choosing purposefully, even though to other people perhaps it didn't look like that. And then I had the things that I was doing because I was making money. And those two things oftentimes when we're first starting a business have to go hand in hand. So when we're working with people and they're feeling like they're struggling with where are they going, really getting these pieces first. And I put goals at the bottom and vision not first, because oftentimes when someone walks into our office and we say, well, let's do visioning, it's really big. They don't have a vision. That's why they're there. So I like starting with the building blocks, really keying in on their interests and their strengths and their values and their differentiators before we work into kind of their goals and how are they going to bring purpose to that. And when we think about those pieces put together, then we can get to the vision. We can see how, yes, these are the pieces that are coming together. Thank you. Thank you, everyone. It's good to see you. And I enjoy you giving me comments. Thank you for doing that. When I think about these pieces here at the bottom of the light bulb, you see the external perceptions. And that's a big piece of what we do in the personal branding space. It's not just what do I want to be or what do I want to be seen as, what do I want to be known for, but who needs to know me and what do they think about me? And how can I help them see the pieces of me that I need to be seen for me to move forward? It's not making them up or creating perception or putting on a mask. It's these are the real authentic pieces of me that they need to see for the light to work, for it to shine brightly especially for the people that I need to see it, for them to be able to see it. And that's where we put the two pieces together. Now, I will say that some of our colleagues have asked, what's the difference between your certified career transition coach class and the certified personal branding strategist? The certified career transition coach has very similar pieces, but we're talking about how to put them together for a career transition. How do you make a decision about career change and doing something different? In personal branding, there is more depth to just really understanding who you are and what drives you and what you want in your career longer term so that you can get promoted, move. It still may be related to a career change, but not necessarily. It's that more deeper motivation and goal and who am I what needs to be visible about me, and who needs to see that so that I can put those pieces together. So we have people that do personal branding that are helping leaders, that are helping entrepreneurs, and of course, that are helping job seekers. And it's that deeper level of are you and how do you communicate your story. And since we're on the topic here, I'll just go back to our process for this program, which is here. So these are the 3 steps that we go through. Extract, which is where we spend most of our time. Clients want to speed through this process, but we know that you need the tools to really figure it out. And then express, where we communicate it, and exude, where we're taking that time to really build our visibility and our network in that direction of where we want to go next. And this is that longer term career agility. How do I have a durable career? It's really getting known for what you want to be known for and building that within your sphere of influence and within the people that really need to know you. So one of the other tools that I just wanted to share with you today is around that values piece. And this is one of the tools that we're using in the class. You remember the little stripe for values is yellow. So we've got this beautiful glowing color here for our work values. But work values are oftentimes, and they're oversimplified perhaps. And so we like to break it down in a few different categories. Just really thinking about that intrinsic motivation and what is it that you work for? Why do you work? And then what's important in those work relationships? Who is it that is important to us at work? Do we mean, sometimes it's even, are those important to us or not? Although most research would say that they are, whether we recognize it or not. And how are we going to build those? And then that lifestyle value of how is work going to fit into my lifestyle? How I'm making those decisions. Work environment. So what's important to me about a work environment, and the work content. What's important to me about what I do. Now, the interesting thing for a lot of people is that these categories may be one more weighted than another, and they're going to shift. So right now, I might be really, really keyed in on wanting to do a specific type of work. And that's really important to me right now. Maybe I just got my degree or whatever it might be. I'm really passionate about my work content. And then something changes, and now my lifestyle and making sure that I've got that flexibility is the most important. But what happens if we don't help people walk through multiple areas and discovering in different ways is that they can think lifestyle is the most important, but simply because no one's asking them the other questions. And if we get a more balanced appearance of our values, a more balanced evaluation of our values, it can help us put together the pieces and put things in their place. So when we look at all the pieces, we might say, oh, lifestyle fits here, instead of me thinking that it fit here. And I have that opportunity to balance across the categories instead of overly focusing on one or the other. So as you're thinking about values with your clients, we've got a lot, different assessments and card sorts and pieces that can help us get to these questions with clients. But it can also be just great, powerful questions, helping them understand across those 5 areas, what are they doing to make sure that they're paying attention to their values and really thinking through all the pieces that are important to them. And I'll show you one other piece here, and then we'll see if we've got any other questions coming in the chat. And this is really the foundation behind our branding work. And we use this slide a lot. What do you want to be known for? We talk about this in business. We talk about this, and when we see corporate brands, but we know that we can't be known for everything. If we have focus, it's easier for people to know what we want, know who we are, and put us in positions where we can flex those skills, gain those experiences we want, and move in the direction that we want. The challenge with a lot of our work right now is that these waters have been muddied. People don't know what they want to be known for, or they're questioning, can that fit with what I want out of life right now? And how do I put all of those pieces and what really matters? What does really matter in my life, and how do I want to go about getting those things? Because when I put the pieces together, I really can't deny my foundation, right? I can't deny who I am, even though my circumstances have changed. And if we help people figure out how they can, kind of make the best of both worlds there, then they don't feel like they're fighting against themselves, because we cannot be someone different in different areas of our life. Then we are constantly at odds with ourselves, or trying to figure out what face I'm supposed to put on today. It's exhausting. It typically makes us not very effective at our work, and we're not happy. So when people tell me that they want to find meaningful work or they want to be more fulfilled, I know that the first step to doing that is really diving deep to understand what those things mean to someone. Because going into volunteer work won't necessarily make you feel more fulfilled. It won't. Because if your fulfillment is gained from doing a certain type of work or working with a certain problem, it needs to either be the right nonprofit or not. And when we really dive into what that means for people, we can have a much richer conversation, and they're going to have better outcomes when they think about where they want to go. And they might find that a new job isn't necessarily the answer. It may be something else that will help them fill that bucket. So I love that all of you are out there doing that work. I'm excited next Wednesday, we're going to start our next certified personal branding strategist class next Thursday. And we always have a great group of people that not only gets to explore how they're going to use these tools with their clients, but also how they're going to move forward with a clear brand for themselves and attract the best clients for their work, or build their career in the direction that they want to go. Because we don't always just have business people in there. We also have people from universities and workforce centers that are doing this type of work with clients in different settings. So if you have questions about that, let me know. And I look forward to answering those. And we look forward to seeing you next week for another Trend Tuesday. If you have other topics that you'd like us to cover or questions that you'd like answered, I'd be happy to do that on these sessions or any other format that works for you. If you haven't checked it out yet, I released my third newsletter on LinkedIn. So LinkedIn articles section for me, I released a newsletter on applicant tracking systems. I'd love your thoughts on that as well. And if there's topics that you'd like me to research for those go a little bit more depth into some research and data and graphics. Please let me know that as well. Otherwise, I will see you next Tuesday. Thank you, everyone. Thank you.